Welcome to episode 9 of the Bulls REKAP Podcast. I'm Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You could follow me on Twitter at @JCowleyHoops, or obviously you could read me in the Sun-Times, the sports section. I won't be in any other section unless something went very wrong. So look, I'm excited about this show. I mean, pulling the curtain back in the media room, there's a lot of barbershop discussions that go on, and these are my favorite guys to have barbershop discussions with. So we got the guys from It's the Bigs. We got Eugene, we got Terrence, and we got my man Drew. What's up, fellas?
Joe Cowley.
Yes, sir. What's going on, Joe?
So, first of all, compliment to Drew. And, obviously we travel around with a lot of these beats. And the one thing I've noticed about Drew lately, Drew's asking some good-ass questions. I mean, Drew, I compliment Will Gottlieb. I love our young guys because we travel around and there's a lot of young guys that are sitting in media rooms and they're just boom mics. They're waiting for the older guys to ask questions and they're just recording and they don't want to rock the boat. I can say this about the Chicago media, at least the Bulls media right now. We got some dudes that I feel like if I got to walk off in the sunset tomorrow, these dudes are going to hold checks and balances on these organizations, or at least the Bulls. So I just want to compliment Drew and the other young dudes on this beat. I mean, as an older guy, it makes you feel good that, hey, no, we got some dudes here that want to keep this thing going and question these organizations when they need to be questioned. So I wanted to get that out there first of all. So you guys got a real one with Drew, and I'm glad he's around because he does add a lot to the beat.
Appreciate that, Joe. For real.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, we're going to get right into Rose night. I'm going to tell you what my favorite part of the Derrick Rose night was. And that was, I do not know Derrick Rose like you guys do. Let's put that out there right now. What I do know about him, though, is to see the relationship between he and his son, for someone that grew up without that and to understand the importance of it in its absence, tells me that there has been a ton of self-discovery and self-awareness that not a lot of people in his position get. So I thought that was, Joakim's speech was great. Derrick's speech was good. I thought his media session was good. I mean, he goes off on Derrick tangents and that's fine. But the person he is as a father was, to me, the most positive thing that I saw on Rose Night. Now, look, I didn't go to a lot of the events, and that's just the way it was. But to me, that's a special relationship. And not just with PJ, I mean, with all his kids. You could tell he understands the role of a father and the importance of it. And I thought that was probably the coolest thing. So, Terrence, what did you like the most?
Man, I like the love that the fans were giving to Rose, man. I feel like it was very appropriate, given the fact that he, hung him up before the season started.
Right.
That the Bulls got right down to business to show him some love, and I think that it's obviously something that the fan base was super receptive to. It's something that they've wanted to do, and the Bulls had an opportunity to give them what they wanted, and it was a layup move on the Bulls' part. But the best thing from it was I feel like before he retired, it was a bunch of debates and conversations, man, about how he would be received in his, post-playing career. And we got a glimpse that showed us, man, it's probably always going to be nothing but love for Derrick Rose, not just in Chicago, man, all over sports.
Eugene.
Man, it's interesting you said that, Joe, because if I would have been able to get my question off in that media session, what I was going to ask Derrick about was finding that knowledge of self. And I was going to tell him, like, all the on the court stuff is great. All of the accomplishments, all the accolades is great. But what I've loved most about his journey is the man that he's become since that kid, that the Bulls drafted #1 overall. So I'm with you, Joe, as a guy, and as Derrick as well, guys that didn't have fathers growing up. I think it's very important now that he has those boys in his life. He understands the importance of giving them everything he never had. And with me too, I have a 3-year-old. My son just turned 3 in December 3rd. And I saw your boys in the media room a couple weeks ago. So, us not having that growing up is very important. And the last thing my son will ever do, not have is me in his life.
Right.
So I'm with you,
Well
man.
said.
I thought the love that Derrick has for his kids and his family in general is what stuck out to me the most.
And then Drew?
Man, for me, it's got to be the fact that Derrick had a hand in that weekend and he didn't make it about himself. Obviously it was about him and what he was as a Chicago Bull and what he meant to not only that organization, but the city at large. He wanted to give roses to people that supported him. He made sure that he acknowledged his past teammates, his coaches, regular Bulls employees who nobody knows except for guys who would know that are in that building. So to me, that was special. Just him putting his own little twist on what normally is just all about a specific player. So to me, that was pretty cool, man. And that speech that he gave and, talking about how he asks PJ all the time whether or not he wants to be good or great. It actually reminded me of Terrence. He doesn't know that, but it reminded me of Terrence and kind of his mindset and the way he goes about his business and our business.
All right, so here's what I want to get into. Obviously, we all have a different history with Derrick. Mine is what it is, and I'll explain mine. And it's all relative to basically whether the profession, off the court, on the court, why we draw opinions on people, why we draw opinions on a person, what's the difference between being objective, subjective. I mean, all that kind of stuff kind of comes into the part of this. Now, Terrence and Eugene, obviously, Drew, you're a little younger. So what your guys' history with Derrick, remind me what it is to put this in perspective.
Well, my personal history, and this is something else that I was going to let be known in that media session. My personal history goes back before anyone knew about Derrick.
Right.
So when he was at Beasley, I've graduated from Beasley as well. So when he was in 7th or 8th grade at Beasley, my old high school basketball coach at Mount Carmel, he came to me and he says, "Man, Gene, there's this kid at Beasley named Derrick Rose that's really good, and we want him here at MC. Is there any way that you can recruit him and come there and try to get him to come there?" And I'm like,
right.
"Oh, cool, coach. We went the same, So I went over there, talked to our head coach, Mr. Green, and he was like, "Man, Gene, I appreciate it, but he's already been spoken for. He's going to Simeon." So I knew Derrick back then, and then when he got to Simeon, and Terrence and Derrick graduated from high school the same year, so they have that in common.
Gotcha.
But just over the years, going to Simeon and keeping in touch with him and knowing the Simeon history with Bob Hambrick and then Rob Smith taking over, so knowing Derrick then. And then at Memphis and just through the pipeline, Chicago basketball is, it's the 3rd largest market, but it's a really small community of basketball guys. So Derrick was always one of those kids whose name was popular amongst everyone. So just watching him come up through the ranks, and then obviously coming to the Bulls, and then when me and T got on the beat that first year and being able to build.
And that was what year when you guys were around him?
That was 15. It was his
15?
last season. 15.
15.
Yep.
Okay.
And so, just building that relationship with him from there, it was. I just think what we say, Joe, is he understood the assignment from day one. That's just how I put it.
And real quick, Joe, I can't let you age me like that, man. Drew got a few years on me. Drew got a few years on me.
Right.
But
I thought, okay.
Yep, graduated in 07, same year as Derrick, though. But really, just part of the generation that saw him come all the way up from 7th grade and being part of the Chicago high school basketball scene ever since I was in high school. It's always been a thing. Like, what did Derrick Rose do last night? I know we got a W, but what did DRose do last night? So just being part of that ride and then eventually covering him once we got to the Bulls beat is my story.
All right, I'm going to explain to you my story because we've debated this numerous times. I think here's how I sum up the Derrick Rose career. And then afterwards, you guys can tell me every reason why I'm wrong. I consider him a shooting comet across the sky that was probably 2.5 years where it burned its brightest. It was 4 years before the injury, but 2.5 years where it burned really bright, where you can't help but watch it. So the issue I had with him, and again, I took a lot of baggage into the Bulls beat from the White Sox beat with Jerry Reinsdorf. I don't think there's any mystery to that. And when I got to the Bulls, my hope was this is going to be different because now I'm dealing with Jerry's son, Michael, who at the time wasn't even in full control like he is now, but was up and coming and stuff. So anyway, the year that Derrick was with Team USA, I'm going to say 14, maybe? Was that 14? We're all in Vegas. I get Derrick, and you guys probably know the story because maybe from his side or because I know you guys have talked to him about it. And I get him, and I want to do a big piece on how everyone knew the relationship between his camp and the Bulls was not the greatest. That was not a secret. So Derrick wanted to fix that, kind of like LeBron fixed his camp. He took control of his camp after the decision. The decision was not his idea. It was his camp's idea, and it went terribly wrong. And LeBron promised that ain't going to happen again. And so I talked to Derrick about that. So the story was actually supposed to be positive about this is a guy that haven't had the greatest relationship with Paxson all the time. And I even got his agent, BJ Armstrong. You know, I called the office. He answered somehow. It went straight to him, which somebody had to get fired because of that. And he was all over the place. I had never talked to BJ, and he was, hey, I'll help you whatever you want, but I'm not going to comment on this and this. And it was just all over. And I'm like, holy shit, this is who the Bulls have to deal with when they're talking about. And he did say, I don't have to talk to Paxton. I don't have to talk to Gar. I could talk straight to Jerry if we're talking contract and stuff. But that was one of the things he did preface. And I'm like, oh, okay. So there's a lot going on here that they've got to deal with. Both sides. The Bulls have to deal with this, but Rose came out to it. So I wrote the piece. We're out at a casino that night. And I thought it was a positive piece. It runs. Boom, I get a call. I'm not going to say from who. Someone with the Bulls saying, hey, Jerry, shit hit the fan. Jerry is livid with that story. And the thing he's most pissed about is that you painting this picture that there's problems between the Rose camp and the Bulls, which to me was common knowledge. And he's releasing a statement condemning you and the story, blah, blah, blah. Second time he did. They did it with the White Sox one time that Kenny Williams and Ozzie Guillen, there was nothing wrong between the two. Oops, that went really wrong because then he had to release a statement a year later saying they actually did have problems. So that statement comes out. Fine. That's just a Joe Cowley, Jerry thing. Well, my feeling about Derrick up to that point was Derrick was a real one. He was a real dude. And I thought we had a really good relationship. Jerry propped him up on ESPN that night, I think it was with Saunders, to condemn the story, shoot the story down. Now you're lying because I had the whole interview on tape, and the newspaper at the time, the editors even said, let me hear everything. And I played it for him. And now you're trying to take food off my table. So I'm trying to do a positive piece on you, and you let Jerry turn you into a puppet when you're supposed to be this real dude. That's what I had a problem with. Okay. Then it just got to the point where everything he said was just the dumbest thing to say. The meetings and graduations and all this started happening after. And so then I actually started examining his career, and I'm like, this guy's going to be the first MVP not to be in the Hall of Fame. And I still stand on that. I said that they should retire his number. I wrote that not because of he didn't bring a chip home. He didn't even get out of the Eastern Conference Finals, but for what he did to the city and Chicago basketball for that time frame was as big a boost as that the landscape could have asked for. So that's why I said they should have retired his number, because sometimes it's not about the hardware. It's about your impact in the community in the landscape of basketball, in the climate, what you did. And what he did was seismic. So that's my history with Derrick Rose. And obviously, you guys aren't going to agree with this. So you tell me why I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
I guess I'll kick it off, man. I don't think that you're wrong about anything except that he's gonna be the only MVP not in the Hall of Fame. I disagree.
So you think he belongs in the Hall of Fame?
I definitely think he belongs in the Hall of Fame, and we'll get there. But when it comes, to your situation with Derrick and some lines getting crossed, I don't doubt that would piss me off. You know what I mean? And I can't say that I may or may not feel that way about some of the current Bulls players on the team that we've had relationships with, and they get around the Bulls, and next thing you know, things are different. You
Right.
know? But from my standpoint,
You mean some of the Chicago guys, some of the Chicago guys.
Some of the Chicago guys.
Okay.
Our scope is so much bigger than that 2.5 years, though. Like our scope started when he was 13, 14 years old.
Right.
And by the time he got to the Bulls, so much had happened. State championships, national championship appearance, first overall draft pick to the Bulls. His legacy was solidified right there. And when it comes to some of the comments, I feel like that's where we related to Derrick the most, is because we understood and we kind of move the same way in how we do the bigs. We're not really worried about the standard way to do things. And I feel like a lot of what was going on with Derrick was him doing his own thing, and guys like you holding him to the standard of athletes that have come before him and what it looks like to be a star player in the NBA and things like that. And Rose is really one of the first guys to come in here and say, nah, that's not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this way. Especially when it came to his responses to his injuries. It became more about how he feels and when he's ready to get out there, as opposed to when the doctor says he should get out there and start destroying his body again.
Right.
But I feel like what we've seen after that is other athletes adopt his philosophy. We've seen guys like Paul George straight up tell us, you know what, Rose was doing the right thing, because these doctors won't take into consideration that you're telling them, I still don't feel right. Yeah, I'm clear, but nah. We've seen guys like Kawhi, and he just came back from another injury. We've seen guys like Kawhi take his merry little time healing and making sure that he was 100% on his standards and how whatever he felt he needed to feel in order to get back out there. So I feel like Rose was very brave, to kind of stand alone on as many things as he did. And I feel like another thing that stood out to me at Rose night was he was very accountable for some of the things that he said that may have been kind of crazy back then. He's like, look, I was growing in. I didn't fully understand the space that I was in. I was super focused on bringing a championship to Chicago, and was, developing as a man was secondary. And that's why you got some of the things I said. So I feel like you admitted it yourself, Joe. You like that. The Rose that you see today is a family man.
I do.
But that's what he was kind of touching on in some of them comments. He was looking at it and maybe didn't really express it in the most PC way, in the way that everybody was going to love. But we always knew what he meant. We always knew. It's like, yeah, I bet somebody that has been on top of the world at every stage of his career since he was a teenager to get knocked off of the mountain when he feels like he's right there at the top of it with that ACL injury, I bet it would throw you into a flux a little bit. You know what I mean? So I feel like Derrick's story is polarizing because it happened in front of all of us. He's like, was a kid phenom, you know what I mean? And ended up playing for his hometown team. That would break a lot of people. You know what I mean? That pressure is nothing to say that is nothing. You know what I mean? But I really think that even in the midst of it, you know, he was showing that he was different, you know, that he was heading towards where he is today.
I get that. And so, Eugene, so now we're going to go to the next step with this. And this is what you and I have debated. So then he comes back from the injury, and now Jimmy has risen. There's no doubt that Jimmy has risen. And I will, and this is the hill I'm going to die on, and I know the hill you're going to die on. Derrick, to me, could not hold a candlelight to Jimmy's skills on both ways of the court. Jimmy's not the flash that Derrick is, but I mean, who is? There's nobody. I mean, that was as flashy as it gets. So when Derrick comes back, the Bulls hire, I can't remember her name. It was Derrick's main physical therapist. They hired her and put her in charge of the whole department. And now this was a recipe for disaster.
In charge of the Bulls whole department?
The Bulls hired her. She was in charge of the whole strength department.
Okay.
And Swanson, maybe her last name was Swanson. I think it was. I can't remember. So now all of a sudden, Pau Gasol comes in, and Pau's seen some things in his day. And Pau was great with making sure his fingerprints were never on the weapon, but you damn sure he fired weapons. Pau, it was basically Joakim and Derrick on one side.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sitting out of practices because maybe it was Jen Swanson. I'm almost positive that's her name.
Yeah,
said that they
Jennifer
didn't have to
Swanson.
that they didn't have to practice. Meanwhile, Jimmy and Pau are busting their ass in Tibbs's practices. And Pau's going to Jimmy like every other day. Hey, Jimmy, we're practicing again. Look at those two are over there getting massages. When's this going to end? So now, and I think all of it has calmed down since, but I don't care what anybody says. There was a civil war going on with that team. And the fact that Tibbs was able to coach that and get it as far as he got it, almost beating LeBron, if not for LeBron heroics, it just shows you what a great coach he is. So now it was almost like, if you're a beat writer, it was almost pick a side at that point. And I was the only one on the side of Jimmy and Pau behind in the shadows, Pau Gasol. And so I know you and I used to have debates on this. Tell me where I went wrong, or what was wrong in all of that, or what a part of my opinion at that time or to this day that you thought was wrong.
Well, you just brought light to it, because even most people who know, they might not even know you by name. They just know the guy that hates Derrick Rose. They're out here, Joe. We hear this so much that you don't even know. But this is really the first time that I've gotten the full scope of your reason. Like, I didn't know, I just thought it was something personal. I didn't know the whole scope of it. So I'm not here to say you're wrong. You're entitled to your opinion. You know, you're entitled to your opinion, and you've got a background in this. So you've taken your lumps and you've done your thing. So I would never say you're wrong for your opinion. But just going back to what Terrence was saying, and just us being understanding, and this is less about the Jimmy and Derrick thing. We can get into that about dying on that hill, but more about understanding where Derrick was coming from. And then to expand on what T was saying, Derrick was, he didn't have media training. Right. Nobody taught him. Nobody worked with him. Joe, all he wanted to do was hoop and go home. Right. He didn't realize that he was obligated to talk to us. He didn't realize he had to talk to you guys until he actually got there. So he was still learning that on the fly. Well, a lot of those guys, they spent a couple years in college, or, they've been through some type of media training, where Derrick was just, he was on such a fast track that he was moving so fast, like Terrence said, since he was 13. So giving him the benefit of the doubt, and like you said, him growing as a man and looking back on some of those things, like, yeah, now that I got this knowledge of self, maybe there were some things that I could have done differently and said differently. But again, you said the same thing. It's like, you like this version of Derrick that we've seen after I always say it's like being inside the Matrix. You can't see it when you're inside of it, but once you get a chance to step outside and realize what was going on, you get to get a clearer picture. But so again, I don't think you were wrong. I'm not going to say your opinion was wrong, but what I will say, there's no way Jimmy Butler, and so the quote was, and I'll put his name on wax because I don't care, Dan Bernstein. Bernstein was on 670 to score, and he said Jimmy Butler was a better player than Derrick Rose. And I added to it and said, there's no way prime Jimmy Butler was better than prime DRose, and we didn't even see prime DRose. So I didn't even think it all the way through before I tweeted it out. So MVP Derrick Rose and prime Jimmy Butler. If you got two working eyes, Joe, there's no way in hell you're going to tell me that Jimmy Butler is a better player. Now, defensively, cool. Yes, he took the Miami Heat to 2 championships. Take nothing from him. But
see, let me say that in 2015, the issue with Jimmy Butler coming onto the scene and in the manner in which he did was Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler were 2 different kind of leaders. You got Derrick with, I'm going to lead with my actions, and you got Jimmy Butler with, I'm going to play hard and I'm going to talk you up and down. And right. I feel like the issue was Jimmy Butler didn't have a resume to be that guy on the team with Derrick Rose, with Joakim Noah. You know what I mean? He was almost 3rd in that pecking order, or 4th if you want to say Powell was 3rd. And right. It's like, how was Jimmy Butler being catapulted to the front lines of this when we've seen who our real soldiers are? We know that this is Rose's team. We know that this is Joakim's team. And Powell has come on to take them to another level after the original buzz of Derrick Rose, you know, his level of play. After all of that wore off, the injuries, all of that, this is the other side of that now, you know?
So Jimmy, here's what I'll tell you. So behind the scenes, I think Jimmy's mindset, and I think Powell had a lot to do with it, is Powell telling Jimmy, the leader is the one that does the dirty work in practice, the one that is out there busting his ass in practice, because that's what Kobe was.
Right.
So when you're being told that by Powell, then in Jimmy's head, this is my team because I'm here every day doing the hard work. I'm not off to the side getting massaged. I'm not off to the side getting free passes because the organization hired my physical therapist. And in Jimmy's mind, go ahead.
I wouldn't call it who was getting a free pass, because Derrick was in the middle of being hated while he was out. You know,
I don't know if he was being hated. He didn't do himself a lot of favors. Drew, what's your take on all this? Where were you in on all this?
Man, so I'm kind of torn because I enjoy watching Derrick play, and I'm a fan of Jimmy Butler just from the standpoint of he's gifted, but he worked so hard, so tirelessly to bring himself up to the point where he was able to lead a team to 2 finals, whether or not you want to call it Mickey Mouse finals or asterisk finals, like he did it. So I commend him for doing that. But I think that if you're looking at this argument between a prime Derrick Rose, who maybe never got injured, and I know, Joe, you stick with the facts of what happened. I understand.
Yeah, your prime. I don't live in the land of what if.
Right.
I mean,
but
because that's in a lot of sports debates, that's what it becomes. If, and trust me, I shed that a long time ago. Prime Bo Jackson. We never really got to see prime Bo Jackson.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I always said, to me, Deion Sanders was the best athlete I've ever seen because there was longevity, there was availability, there was a longer legacy, and that's all part of it. So that I understand what you're saying, but I just don't live in that land of what if. I live in the land of is, and I saw Jimmy at his highest. I mean, that 40-point triple-double against the Lakers in a must-win game in the finals, I don't think DRose, and playing the defense he did on whoever he had to guard, and even the playoffs earlier, yelling out, "I got Giannis," and going on Giannis and shutting his ass down. There's stuff that he did that Derrick Rose could never dream of because Jimmy's will was stronger than Derrick's skill. And when you have will like that and just an F you to the world, I'll take that any day of the week. And I just think Jimmy's a foxhole guy and look, Jimmy's, I love Jimmy, but Jimmy's 4 or 5 years and he's going to wear an organization out. We see what's going on in Miami because there is such a all the time that I think it just wears people out. So I understand his weaknesses too. But so I've always been like, Jimmy is the best two-way player I've seen in a Bulls uniform, and it's not even close since the Pippen Jordan days. It's not even close. So that's where I'm coming from.
Derrick Rose is the second greatest Bull I've ever been able to have the privilege to watch. And I think
put him ahead of Pippen.
Put him in terms of who I've watched, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and because we talked about it, Joe. We talked about it, Gino and T. Like the Bulls are missing that guy. Joe, you've written it several times, when Minnesota was here, when they played against Dallas. And I think if you're talking about a player who is that guy, I don't think you would go to Jimmy Butler. No disrespect to him. Again, all props to him, what he's been able to do with his career. But that guy is DRose. We know what little guards can and cannot do when it comes to being able to lead their teams to championships. But Derrick Rose was a different type of breed, man. I know we're going back into that what-if game, but he is what we want the Bulls to have again. He is that guy, or he would have been that guy, and he was that guy for the amount of time that he was before injuries curtailed his career.
And I'm with you. Me and T have these debates all the time. I'm 100% not living in the what if land. You can miss as soon as we say the what if, you can count me out the conversation.
Gotcha.
What I'm saying is, so I'm gonna ask. So those first years before Derrick got that ACL injury, he wasn't a foxhole guy.
No, he was. He was a foxhole guy. Yeah, okay. Without question.
Okay.
But I look at everything in totality.
No doubt.
Did the injuries? So did the injuries change him? And I think they did. They obviously they changed his mentality. And look, I understand there was a lot of, and people have to kind of put some of this in context. Bulls doctors, whether they're present or at the time, there was no trust between the players and the Bulls doctors. Ask Lou All about that spinal tap.
100%.
So when they're telling you you're good, bullshit. I don't trust you, and that went on for a long time, even after Derrick left. I mean, that was one of the things veterans were passing on to young dudes was, hey, don't trust these Bulls doctors. Go get a second guy. Have your camp get a second guy. So I get that whole thing, and I think I defended Derrick pretty hard that if he done fail right, you can't throw him back out there because that was my first year on the beat. Was Derrick's whole year of sitting out.
Okay,
and so. I was a columnist before that, so I was around the team, not regularly, but I was around the team the 2 years prior to that when Derrick was at his, the apex predator that you guys saw. Here's my regret in the whole thing. I don't have the experience of seeing him in high school. I don't have the experience of being around him on a daily basis from years 1 through before the ACL injury. And this is what Casey Johnson always tells me. If you were there, you would have gotten it. But he understands what went wrong with Derrick and I. And it's too bad. It's one of those things that happens. I will say this. And here's what I think is funny. So he did that interview probably 2-3 years ago. And Sam Smith tells me that Derrick knows my name, but he publicly doesn't like to say it like he does know.
Oh, trust. It's true. But so let me tell you though, he respects you.
What did I tell you? The fact that I could ask any question, even when we weren't on good terms, and he would answer it. I don't care if he didn't look me in the eye or was looking elsewhere, and he would answer it instead of one word answering it, like Jabari Parker, that big mope that was a waste of everyone's time. I respected that, and I used to tell people I respect the hell out of him. I mean, without question. So there is a footnote to this. he did that interview a couple years ago. It was like some kind of barbershop podcast, and he said the guy that he described me as a guy that wore flip flops a lot.
Yeah.
And he said, but I think he retired, which I did retire. That was news to me, but whatever. Here's what I'll say. Without going into too much detail, there is some discussion about possibly Derrick and I having some kind of sit down in the future and talking this out. Mm-hmm. I think he's willing, and I think I'm willing. So I do hold grudges to a certain extent, but I don't hold a grudge enough. Well, T's got breaking news. Go T. What do you got?
No, I'm laughing for two reasons. Because first, I don't know. Do you remember me and you having our last debate inside the Bulls locker room after that, the day that interview dropped?
When I was saying, I don't think he's talking about me.
Oh, yeah. He's talking
I was like, I don't think it's me because he said he retired and I'm here.
But, Joe, come on, man. You blew your chances with Jabari Parker. After all of the Derrick Rose stuff, Jabari Parker is too close to Rose. He's probably, from the Simeon connection, and Jabari Parker is a direct descendant of Derrick Rose, and he walked right in his footprints.
100% new.
Oh yeah, and he's like, that's the dude that was talking all that stuff.
Joe, you're more famous than you know as the DRose hater, man.
Well, here's the funny thing. So I mean, you guys know Io well enough. Io's funny as hell, and it's like he's like an assassin from afar. We were in Atlanta, and Io, I was tweeting stuff, anti-Bears stuff and whatever that day. This is like last month. And Io, it's real quiet in the locker room. I'm waiting for Zach. I was the only one on the trip. And all of a sudden, Io from across the locker room goes, Joe. I go, what's up? Who do you hate more, the Bears or us? In front of everybody. And so the whole locker room's looking at me and they all go, ooh. It was like a lunchroom. And I go, that's a good question, Io.
Yeah.
So the other day, KC and I were in the locker room in DC, and of course everybody's there. Dalen and THT, Taylor Norton Tucker, is sitting next to Io, and I think he was like, they were kind of like chatting about something, and all of a sudden Io goes, Joe, are you going to Derrick Rose tonight? I go, yeah. And then it was like, he like pauses and he gets this shit grin on his face. And he goes, why you hate Derrick so much? And Taylor's looking at me like, yeah, I want to hear this story. So I told them all the story, and THT was like, he was listening, but you could tell like in his mind, he's like, yeah, I think this is the dude that used to rip Derrick.
Yeah.
So, so my whole point is, look, I think the Rose night thing is great. I'm glad Derrick's getting his number retired. I hope that Derrick and I can sit down at some point and talk about it, because I think we've both changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever will, and I don't know if he actually cares to. It sounds like that he does. So we'll see what happens. But, all right, let's wrap up the Derrick stuff. Let's get to some Bulls stuff. Drew, what the hell is this team doing, my man?
So
Joe,
watch this, Joe.
Joe, your guess is as good as mine. I'm not very confident in the direction that they're heading in. I have my concerns about them being able to reshape this team this season. I think that with these reports that keep coming out about the market and what it is or what it isn't for Zach and Vooch, okay, that might be what it is, but can you pivot and maybe try to sell high on Io or Kobe? You can't, it's not going to be the ideal situation. It's going to hurt to see Kobe and Io go, because those guys have developed in their own right while they've been Bulls. But with their deals, with the deals that they're on, extensions aren't going to happen, because those guys stand to make more money not extending because of that 140% veteran extension rule with the new CBA. And I think you just have to be proactive in this moment, especially considering what you didn't do last season when you reportedly let, a deal for Andre Drummond go by the wayside and then watched him walk to Philadelphia for, when you could have had 3 second-round picks for him. And I just don't understand the direction. I don't understand why when he came in, he talked about wanting to use the draft to build the team. Now it seems like he could care less about draft picks. He's about to possibly lose his 3rd lottery pick. That hurts a team like this that's stuck in the middle the way it is, where you're not losing enough games to get a draft pick that can actually meaningfully change your team, but you're not winning enough to actually make a dent in the playoffs and have any true, chance of contending for anything meaningful playoff time. So I'm just confused. I'm worried. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting an opportunity to talk to AK. I really want to talk to Michael Reinsdorf and ask him what are the metrics that he's using to judge or grade this front office outside of attendance? Because attendance, if it's going to be part of the rubric, like we know that fans are going to show up for these games. Yeah. The United Center is a hell of a draw. They put on a great show. There's a lot of nostalgia that goes into Bulls games and everything that this franchise stands for right now. So you should eliminate that, in my mind, from the equation of what you're grading this front office on. And it has to be based in, okay, what do we got? What are we doing to build this team back up and make sure that we can get another run at a title here soon, guys? Like, what's going on here?
The United Center to me is becoming Winter Wrigley Field.
100%.
Winter Wrigley Field.
The greatest tourist attraction around. Joe, we say they come, once the Dunkin' Donut race and the Benny the Bull antics and the pizza race and the half-court shot, once all that is done and it's 8 minutes left in the 4th quarter and the fans are all done, no more brew, no more nothing, they like, oh, shit. It's 8 minutes left and the Bulls only down by 3. Oh, we had a basketball
stand
game
up.
now.
Yep. Yeah. Let's stand up. Yep.
They're like, this,
what up?
It's no fault of Billy, his coaching staff, and the players. They're here to win.
No,
but
they're
we saw it Monday. They are snatching short-term gratification from the jaws of long-term success or potentials for more success. It's nasty, man. I don't even know how to take these games right now. It's very hard to judge it in the moment because we know what it means for their draft pick, their draft positioning. I think they've pretty much already ruined their chances of guaranteeing themselves of keeping their pick because there's no way they're going to get to 6th place in the reverse standings. Like, I think that's out of the door. As we sit here right now, I believe they're 4 games out of 4th place in the East because the conference is just what it is. And that worries me to death for Bulls fans because if we know AK's history and he sees them being that close,
go for it.
He's going to stand pat. At this point, you might as well be a buyer, but there's nobody you can buy that's going to be better than the guy that you have on the roster now. So I think he's going to stand pat.
Let me ask this, Terrence Eugene, give me your percentage of what you think they end up doing nothing.
I give it a 60-40 chance that they do nothing, and the other 40% is that they are absolutely going to go for it. And Zion Williamson is going to end up on the Bulls or something. So
here's what I'll say about that.
I'm up with that.
If 100%, if that's the deal they make for Zach, and they bring Zion in here, I'd shut him down. I'd get him with a nutritionist for a month. I'd let him know this is it. This is your rock bottom. This is your Baker Mayfield. This is whatever analogy you want to use of a guy who's kind of hit rock bottom and had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And shut him down for a month. That's going to lose some games right there. Get him right, and then let him play and start becoming part of this culture. I would do that in a second. I just don't know if New Orleans has a big enough headache with him that they would be willing to do that.
Right.
So,
if the Bulls want to take pennies on the dollar and just let Zach LaVine go, and we can really turn the tank on and finish the season out, that would be cool too. Especially now that he's since December 1st, he's averaging 36.5, shooting 40-something from 3.
Balling. And you talk about a guy. You talk about a guy who is in a mental space that I didn't see coming and that only fatherhood could provide.
Joe, there you go, man. There you go.
Different dude. He and I had a heart-to-heart in Atlanta, and we talked about some of the stuff, and it wasn't just me that he's been upset with the last year, but his mindset is in such a different space by having now multiple kids and just kind of understanding the footprint you leave is not on the court. The footprint you leave in life is off the court. And when you have a guy that with that skill set that understands that now and still has that mindset to go out and try and compete at a level he's never competed, it's a different dude. I wish he would have discovered this years ago, but everybody's got to go through their process. All right, I'm going to play a game with you guys. I called it the Rose game. I'm going to give each of you guys 6 point guards from years past. And then I'll say either Derrick Rose or this guy's name, and then you tell me the guy's name or Derrick Rose. So I've got six for each of you. So I'll start off with Drew. Kyrie or Derrick?
Give me Derrick.
I agree. Dame time or Derrick?
Give me Derrick.
Hey. Westbrook or Derrick?
Derrick.
I'm bang dollar.
I agree.
Give me Derrick.
Tim Hardaway or Derrick?
Ooh.
Derrick. That's
Stevie. This one
getting close to home, but Derrick.
Stevie Francis or Derrick?
Woo! Stevie franchise was the business. Still, man.
For about 4 years there, Stevie franchise was Derrick.
Oh, no, that man.
I still give me Derrick though.
Okay. John Stockton or Derrick?
Derrick. Sorry, John.
All right. That's all right. So you and Derrick, all 6 of them?
I did.
6-0, Drew.
I went
I
sharp.
disagreed with 2 of them.
I ain't mad at the Dame time.
Dame time.
Okay.
Dame time and Tim Hardaway.
Okay. That's fair.
All right, Terrence, you ready?
Let's go.
Tony Parker or Derrick?
Give me Derrick.
Chauncey Billups or Derrick?
Give me Derrick.
Gilbert Arenas or Derrick?
Derrick.
Starbury or Derrick?
Ooh, my boy.
Derrick.
Gary Payton or Derrick?
Give me Derrick.
Jason Williams, the white one, or Derrick?
White chocolate. Or give me Derrick.
So Derrick got all of them.
Yeah, it was. I was waiting on one name that I would have even really considered it, but you didn't give it to me.
Maybe Eugene gets that
Yes,
name.
it's got to Joe, and we can stop the game here because if it's only one name that I'm taking, go ahead.
All right, I would have taken Gary Payton over Derrick.
Okay.
All right, you ready? Yours has a couple more added names. Chris Paul or Derrick?
Derrick.
Jason Kidd or Derrick?
Damn. See, now I got to go Derrick, but we got to put it in context because you asking me what am I taking them for? Like
you're taking them right. You're starting a team with them at their best.
Oh, I'm taking DRose. Yeah.
Okay. Steve Nash or Derrick?
DRose.
Isaiah Thomas or Derrick?
He saved the heater for you.
I'm going with Derrick, man.
I got some heaters for Eugene.
Ooh.
This one's it's for the older crowd. Rod Strickland or Derrick?
God, dog, man. That's one of my favorite guys of all time. But I
One
gotta
of my
go
favorite
Derrick.
guys too.
You gotta go Derrick. You got one more chance, man.
Penny or Derrick?
Yeah, you tripping, man.
I got a couple more.
If Derrick had Shaq, they'd have had a ship. Give me Derrick.
Mark Price or Derrick? Think about it.
Give me Derrick. But hey,
All right, last one.
I fought for Mark Price too about a week ago. I love Mark. That's my era.
This is what on my list. I'm talking about guys from the 80s that I think their game would translate even better today.
100%.
Mark Price,
100%.
100%.
Hell yeah.
Last one. Allen Iverson or Derrick?
Oh, I'm taking Bubba Chuck. Sorry, Derrick. You talking about the GOAT. After Mike is AI.
That's it.
Nothing with me. Yeah.
Pound for pound, the toughest player I've ever seen play.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
my
taking
guy.
AI. You left Magic out on purpose, huh?
Because here's why. I thought about Magic, but there's nothing to compare. You almost have to say LeBron or Magic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it's the height, the style of play. It's not really even comparable. So that's why I left Magic out.
Now let me give you one. Me give you one. And names removed. And you already know where I'm going. Names removed. You tell me which career you would rather have. The youngest MVP in the history of basketball, Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Star, number in the rafters, or 6-time All-Star, 5-time All-Defensive Second Team, most improved player. Both 15-year careers.
Has he ever made it to an NBA Finals?
Nope. The first one never made it to an NBA Finals. The second one made two. Neither one of them won anything. Well, titles wise.
Give me the guy that got to the finals.
Okay.
Who is it?
You front.
It's a guy named James. It's a guy named James Jimmy Butler.
Boys,
this is a good debate, man, because they're out there. I'm pretty sure that other people, if we gave this to 100 people, I'm pretty sure the division is there. I'm not sure which. I'm pretty sure Derrick would win the debate, but I'm pretty sure there are a bunch of people who would side with you in your opinion and facts and reasons why you would take Jimmy over Derrick.
It was a lot of people who agree with you in real time.
Yeah.
So,
this is great, man. This is why I like talking to you guys and doing this kind of barbershop stuff. So I appreciate you guys coming on, giving me your time. And look, I hope, it's funny that you say there's some people out there that don't like me that I might not know about. I honestly, we're all trying to grow in this thing.
No doubt.
And the day I stop growing as a person is the day I'm 6 feet under.
No doubt.
So I'm not one of these older dudes in their 50s that's like, no, my way is the only way, the highway. So my hope is that bridges that were burnt, some of them can't be repaired, but I hope that some of them can. So that's how I'll end it.
Hey, Joe, if I can use some foul language right now.
Yeah, Ryan will edit it out if you can, but I think you can. It's a podcast. I think you can say whatever you want.
Hey, we fuck with you, man.
Hey, by the way, so I played ball with Terrence and Eugene. Where's Drew rank? Because Eugene could score. I don't know how Eugene.
Drew might be up there with Gene. We got to get on we still haven't got on the court with Drew yet, but we've heard some things about Drew's game.
Man, that's the old Drew, man. Yeah. This new Drew is washed, man. Eugene is still getting out there putting up numbers against these super athletic young kids. So I got to give him that, man. Although I do want to guard him, I want to see with this mini game like.
That media game was fun. I wish they did that every year.
They was calling me Paul Pierce at the gym last night.
Eugene could score. I'll vouch for that. Eugene he could score, and that was fun. Yeah. So somebody got hurt, either Wennington or Terrence. Did you somebody got knocked down? I remember that.
Wasn't that when Terrence flagrant foul Vinny Goodwill?
No. Vinny is dirty though. Vinny Goodwill's dirty.
That was
a joint.
Was it Lawrence Holmes got knocked down? Somebody got hit in the head.
Somebody did get hurt because we was going hard. Shit.
Yeah. I remember I got Randy Brown and Kendall were going at it.
Yeah.
And I remember I got switched on a Respert, and you forget the difference between strength of a normal man and a guy that played high college level and was in the show. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, I'm trying to put my It's a whole different thing, man. So that was fun.
You guys literally my take.
You got an open invite, Joe. Whenever you're ready, man, come get a hoop in with me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get through my morning games and come home and just kiss a cross that I didn't die. That's where I'm at right now playing.
Okay.
Shoot from outside. Somebody's got to give me pick and roll because I ain't shaking anybody's ass anymore. I got to come off the screen and I'll hit it, and then I'll run down the court and hopefully not get D'd up. I have to D up with someone who's athletic. So that's where we're at. Boys, thanks for doing this, man. I really do appreciate it.
Much love, brother.
You already know, Joe.
All right, that was fun. That's the discussions that kind of go on in the media room for hours and days, and it's sometimes I wish we were mic'd up because there's some good lines that come out of that stuff. So, all right, let's go to Cowley Island, the rant. So we can't talk to anybody in the Bulls front office because Arturas Karnisovas only makes himself available 3 times a year. You get him in media day in the fall, you get him right after the trade deadline, and then you get him right after the last game of the season in some capacity. And that's it. That's the only access we get. Okay. So, unfortunately, we have to pile on Billy Donovan with all these questions. That was the case early this week. So, Billy Donovan was asked about what's your plan? What's the plan? What's being discussed? He could have just said, and this is why Billy's great, he could have just said, it's not my department. You guys know that. I'm X's and O's. The hell with your question. But he doesn't. Billy tries to answer it because he has a good relationship with ownership, because he has a good relationship with the front office. He tries to answer it as honestly as he can. So we all appreciate that about him. But one of the things he said that has me nervous is he talked about what again, this is coming from his eyes, what he is trying to build out from the team. Because of their pace, now third in the NBA, after last year being 28th, third worst to third best. I mean, unbelievable turnaround. His focus is let's not worry about draft picks and landing, one guy and then having another guy and then having, trading away some depth because you're trying to, and then you only got 8 guys that you really care about, because this style of play, which he wants to continue to play, you need 10 to 12 guys. He swears by that. So his mindset is, I'd rather build the team out instead of focus on 1 or 2 dudes. That's great. From a coaching standpoint, he feels like that'll work. Well, here's the problem. Boston, they have depth. Look at their roster. They go 8, 9, 10 deep in the regular season. Obviously, to be tidied up in the playoffs. But they've got 2 elite players still. They've still got that 1 and 2. And that's great for the regular season to have that mentality. Come playoff time, when everything slows down, I don't know if pacing is the end-all, be-all of the equalizer to take superstars out of the equation by just running them up and down the court. And if it is, then this Bulls organization's in bigger trouble than I thought, because they have no understanding of how to build this team into some kind of thing that could at least challenge in the Eastern Conference. So that has me a bit worried. I don't think I'm even on Cowley Island with that. I think there's other people on the island with me with that one. Just what are we doing? And why is the front office not front and center? Not discussing rumors, but just discussing something, just to give this fan base something. So it's discouraging that this is their modus operandi, but it is what it is. All right, let's get to the list. Again, this is a barbershop discussion. I actually was thinking about guys from the 80s, which, the NBA that I grew up with, guys from the 80s that their game could translate to like Patrick Ewing, guys like that. I just don't know if it would work. Maybe he could add an outside shot to his game. But I'm just saying, these are the guys in the 80s that I know their game translates to today's game. Number one, Bulls fans won't love it, but Bill Lambert, that dude would be able to play today. A guy I mentioned when I was talking to the boys from It's the Bigs, Mark Price. I mean, is as deadly a three-point shooter as there was, as great as there was splitting double teams. I think he would just be, I'm not saying he's Steph Curry, but kind of. Alex English, the professional scorer, flat-out professional scorer. Larry Bird. Could you imagine Larry Legend with more of a focus on the three-point shot? because they really, and then George Gervin, the Iceman. Again, kind of falls in that Alex English, would adapt to the outside game, flat out score, would figure it out, would be devastating. So you'd love to see sometimes these guys, if their game or what their game would look like in today's NBA. So that's it for this week. I'm glad the bigs, the guys from the bigs were supposed to come on or came on, and we learned that Terrence isn't the old guy when it comes to Drew Stevens. So there, we learned something new. But no, I thought it was a good Derrick Rose discussion, and hopefully we'll be able to revisit this another time because I don't think the Derrick Rose story is complete. So that's it from me. Thanks for listening, and remember, I got next.